Happy Saturday, everybody. I'm here to lead us all in some Scottish tunes for us all to play along with and maybe learn a little bit about how to play Scottish music in a more appropriate style. And let's try to sort of look closely at the different parts of these tunes to see if we can figure some stuff out. Just like last week, we're going to be in the Triple S Scottish Tune Collection, and that is the Triple S Tunes Smashing Scottish Session Tunes. This was put together by Barbara McOwen, so thank you, Barbara, for putting this nice collection together. I've taken this, you can find this online. It's actually, all you have to do is look up the words Triple S Tunes or Smashing Scottish Session Tunes, and you should be able to find it pretty easily. And the way that I have put this together is that I've printed it out, and I've numbered the pages. So the first page that you print out is going to be the index page. So my first page that I use is the one with Deal Among the Tailors and Mason's Apron, etc. We're actually going to start today on the page that has The Flowers of Edinburgh, and what's the other tune? I had it up here a second ago. The Flowers of Edinburgh and Far From Home, or Far From Home. And so that's going to be this page right here. And I'm going to start with The Flowers of Edinburgh. Really popular tune. It was so popular, in fact, that in the 18th century, it was popular here in America. And there was a famous fiddle player of the time who said it was his favorite tune, a fellow by the name of Thomas Jefferson. And he wrote a letter to his friend Dabney Carr, and he said, one of my favorite tunes is the Scottish air, The Flowers of Edinburgh. So that was one of his favorite tunes. He was a very fine violinist. So, hey, Ann, at the Charleston Games. Yeah, that's a great games. A lot of the games are getting canceled, unfortunately, but we're going to have a good time sort of recreating that if we can. So I'm going to play The Flowers of Edinburgh for you. I'm going to take it at a reasonable clip, and then we'll stop and see if we can show you how to sort of get that Scottish sound. So here's I'll start off with an A first of all, because it's just so we're on the same page. That's a 440A. So here we go. Here's The Flowers of Edinburgh. The Flowers of Edinburgh. Now, the way that we can sort of get this more of a Scottish feel, you can play this in the old time or bluegrass folks play The Flowers of Edinburgh too. Um, hey, we've got some folks from California. Hello. So one of the ways that you can do this is sort of pushing certain parts of the beat. So if you look at the music, you've got some quarter notes happen. Dee da da ma da dee 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 da and dee dee da and dee dee ba da dee da. And so this tune is used a lot in country dance. And so it's in fact in some of the Scottish collections, it's in the country dance section and not necessarily the real section. So keeping it at a reasonable speed when you're playing it. Think about when you're putting your feet down, boom, boom, comfortable, dum ba da dee da dee da dee da da, like that. So. Okay, so it's sort of that sort of a tempo. Okay, so at the beginning of a lot of country dances, when we're playing, one of the things that you can do is you have to give the dancers an idea what tempo that you're going to do. So one of the common things is you play 3 notes. You go. Like that. Bum ba dum. So that gives them bum ba dum. So now they know da da dee da da dee. They know what tempo to come in on. Okay? So okay, so if you're ever playing for dancers, either if you're doing a ceilidh or if you're playing for Royal Scottish Country Dance Society things, it's good to give the dancers that little intro first of all. If you're familiar with playing for English country dances, what they generally do is they generally play the last 2 to 4 measures of the tune. Scottish country dancing doesn't really do it that way. You just bum ba dum, and at the very end you also play a chord at that. And so if you look at the key of this is in the key of G, 1 sharp. You could play a G chord at the very end. So you could go like that or like that. Okay, so there's all sorts of different ways of getting that sort of a sound. Hello, Maureen. It's good to see you. So let's play The Flowers of Edinburgh one more time. And try not to play everything down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Try to do some slurs. And I'm slurring things a lot in groups of 3 instead of groups of 2. So if you do in groups of 2, it's not bad, but it needs a little bit more forward motion. So if you start slurring things in groups of 3s, it actually has a little bit better of a roll to it. So we're going to play this again at a decent tempo. Flowers of Edinburgh, page 8 in the Triple S Tunes collection, and I'll do the 3 notes at the beginning. So I hope you enjoyed playing that tune. That's a really fun tune to play. Some of the things that you can do when you're playing along, and if you're not getting all the notes, try to just at least play the first note of each measure, or play each one of the quarter notes, or try to kind of keep along with the music. One of the worst things to do is to go to a session and you have your instrument with you that you pay lots of money for, and you just sit there with it in your lap. That doesn't do anybody any good. So one of the things that you really ought to do is just get your instrument up under your chin and just start playing, even if you're not playing every note. Whatever you play will help the group. If you look at this, it's in the key of G. So you could just play a G. You can kind of go. Okay, so you can do something like that. You're giving this nice little comping in the back, and it's really helpful. It helps with the rhythm, and it really does add a lot. It might not seem like you're adding a lot, but it adds to the whole group. Yeah, Kim, you're not alone. There's lots of folks in that situation, and one of the best things to do is just sessions. At least Scottish sessions are usually very, very, very welcoming folks, and they tend to, be very encouraging. Another thing that you can do is that you can, if you look at the Triple S collection here, is you can play the guitar chord notes underneath, and so right here you play a G, and if you miss that G, that's okay. Then play a D, and then you see where it says A7 and D7. Just play the A or the D. A minor, right down here, A minor. Just play an A. An A is in the key of A minor. So, MJ and Mojo are here. That's great to hear. Nice to see you guys. So anytime you see a minor or a 7 or anything, just play the note, the E or the G or whatever it says, and you'll be playing the right note. And I showed this last time, and this is a circle of fifths, okay? And this looks really complicated. All you got to do to figure out what chords that you can play or the possible notes that you can play is whatever key you're in. Let's say you're in the key of C right here. You can play each note on either side, or you could do the minor chords underneath it. So these are all the possible chords that you could do. So if we flip this around to, let's say, the key of E flat, which is actually a very popular key in Scottish music, you could play E flats, A flats, B flats, G minors, C minors, or F minors, or just play an A flat, E flat, B flat, or a G, C, or an F. So those are the notes that are most likely in the chords. And if you want to know where to get one of these, just type in Google circle of fifths, and you'll find loads of versions of this and explanations on how it works. But that's a real quick and dirty way to find the chords if you're a guitar player or a mandolin player or even an accordion player. So next tune we're going to do is the next tune down, which is Far From Home. I want to talk a little bit about bowings in this one, okay? And then after we finish this one, we'll play both The Flowers of Edinburgh and Far From Home, okay? What you looking for, Eliza? So we're going to play Far From Home, okay? So that's Far From Home, or Far From Home. Now, let's look at how to get this kind of feeling the right way. And I've written out some bowings on this. So let me make sure this is backwards. Okay, so if you look at what I'm doing, I'm trying to play a down bow on beats 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you look at the way that I've written out the bowings for this, I've put all the down bows in. Okay. Now I've mainly done this as sort of an exercise to kind of give you an idea. So that sets you up for playing, if you look at this one right here, playing 3 notes, but then on this one you play 2 notes in the up bow. So 3 notes here and an up bow, 2 right here. I probably wouldn't play it this way every single time, but if you kind of play it this way, it gives you sort of kind of gives you a shuffle feel that the old-time fiddle players use a lot. That shuffle feel, so it kind of sounds like a train going down a track. So if you look at the way the bowing works here, okay, so it's see, I'm going down, 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 down. So it's consistent through that part. Okay, now you don't have to do it that way every single time, but it gives you a good structure to work with. And you should kind of think about your bowings, because when you're working with playing for dancers, for instance, you want to be able to give the dancers strong downbeats. Most important downbeat, da yum ba da dee da da da. So every time you get that yum ba da dee da da ya da dee dee ya da da, and so the strongest bowing for that particular situation is a down bow. So if you look through the piece and try to put those down bows, if you can figure out what the phrases are, if you want to dee da da dee da dee da dee da da dee da da da, all of those ones where I did that, those ought to be down bows. And so you can kind of figure out throughout the tune where your down bow should go. And that really does help with getting that feel for Scottish music, and particularly in reels, things like that. Reels are need to have that sort of feel to them. So let's play The Flowers of Edinburgh. We'll play it twice, and then we'll go straight down to Far Frae Home, and we'll play that one twice. We'll play 2 tunes. They're both in the key of G. A nice little medley for you. So let's play this little collection of tunes. there's those two tunes together as a medley. If you know two tunes that are in the same key, stick them together, see how they sound together. That's a really easy way to build medleys. Another good way to build medleys is to look at the keys of the tunes, and if you have a key, a tune with a key in 2 sharps, try to stay, if you're going to go to the next tune, try to stay within 1 sharp or flat of the tune. So if you have one tune that's in the key of D, and you go to the next tune that's in the key of A, that's going from 2 sharps to 3 sharps. That's generally not a bad key change. Or if you're going the other direction, if you're in the key of D, and you go back down to the key of G, that's going from 2 sharps, the key of D, down to the key of G, which is 1 sharp. So that's generally a pretty good key change. When you start jumping, like going from, let's say, the key of C to the key of E, which is many more sharps. You got 4 sharps now. So going from 0 sharps and flats to 4 sharps and flats, that's generally not a good way to do key changes. So keep that in mind if you want to go from one key to another. If they're different keys, try to stay within either 1 sharp or flat from the other one. Let's play another type of tune. Let's go into let's play a Strathspey. On page 14 of this collection, we've got 2 Strathspeys here. We've got the Kiri Kubik, and we've got the Iron Man, both of these by J. Scott Skinner. And I'd like to play the Kiri Kubik for us now. Well, let's do this one. It's got a lot of good things to kind of talk about here. So I'll play it through once, so we can kind of get the tune. Okay, so there's the Kiri Kubik. Now, 2 different ways we can play this. We can play it sort of like a Highland style, and like I said last week, the Highland style is using more of what we call the hack bowing, which is like a hacksaw, going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So if you're playing the Kiri Kubik, okay, so that sort of down, up, down, up, down, up. So that works really well. But when you are doing the snap, which is the 16th note followed by the dotted 8th note, so that should be. So when I'm doing this, okay, I'm actually lifting the bow off the string, and then the next one. Okay, so now I'm exaggerating that space, but that space really doesn't need to be there. If you don't leave the space there, it starts to sound more inappropriate for the idiom. So. Do you hear how short that very first note is? It's ta-dun, ta-dee, ta-dum. It's almost imperceptibly short. It's so short. Okay, so that's what we're trying to get to, is that ta-dum, pa. Whenever you have anything other than the 16th note followed by the dotted eighth, the snap, I tend to stay on the string. Okay, so if you watch what happens, those are on the string. The dee da 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 part is, so that you want to kind of keep that in mind. So you have this sort of push pull thing going on. That's that makes the snap pop out even more. If you look at the very last two measures of the piece, you've got before then you've got the triplet figure. Okay, so J. Scott Skinner has decided he wants to differentiate those from the other ones. So so let me show you that here in the music. If you look at the very last, where are we here? This right here. These look different than these, okay? And he did that on purpose. He wanted you to play these differently than these, because he didn't want that da-da-dee, 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 da-da-dee. He didn't want to turn it into a jig. So he wants you to actually make that sound a little bit different. And the way that you do that is, just listen to this. Okay, so there is, it's really subtle and it's really tricky. You're right, Kim. It is tricky. But it helps to kind of break up the monotony of just having a da-da-dee, 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 da-da-dee thing all the time. So, so when you see a whole bunch of those things together, you can kind of switch back and forth between the, and then, okay, so it kind of, it gives the ear a little bit of a rest. And Skinner tunes have a lot of these things going on with it. And generally Skinner will give you a clue as to what to do, okay? So let's try this one together again, okay? So about that tempo, okay? 1, 2, ready. Okay, so you might have heard of an interesting ornament at the very end of that, and that's sort of known as what's called a crunch. And what you do is you're playing that C sharp. So you're going from the C sharp to the open D. One way you can get there is, but what you do instead of like that, you actually play both notes at the same time, which gives you that sort of a dissonance, but you do it just really, really for a very short period of time. So, do you hear that? So so you get this sort of a dissonance for a split second. and it's really indicative of the Scottish style. That little dissonance at the very end, and you can't really play the C sharp too high, because if you play the C sharp too high, it turns into a D, and then you're playing a unison, which is fine too. That's also a thing that they do in Scottish tunes. So don't worry about playing that C sharp too high, because if you play too high, it's just going to be a unison. So I don't think you're going to get a D sharp. I've never heard anybody stretch their third finger that much, unless you're like Paganini, and if you're Paganini, you can play whatever you want to. So now I talked about this being played in the Highland style, which is what we're doing right now. The down up down up down up down up. This can be played in a Northeast style as well. You can play this with a up driven bow, or sometimes known as an arrow stroke. So that would go. Okay, so the way that's done, so it's down, okay, down, up, up. You don't stop the bow from moving, and you kind of give it a push like that, but it's not a hooked bow. It's, I like to think of it as you yump like that. So you go, and then the next note is also an up bow. So you get 3 up bows in a row. But this next up bow is so short. And that up bow happens at the frog, right up here. So it can only be but so. So this is the whole thing. Okay? Tune name is the Kerry Kebbuck. The Kerry Kebbuck. And it's in the Triple S collection on page 14 at the top. Diana. So it's good to see you. So the last up bow, the second up bow, okay, that's really, really short. Okay, so let me show you this. I'll actually write it out. It's down, up, 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 down, up, up, up. Okay, so it actually looks like that. Okay, but what you got is, do you see right here? I've put that little line there. That's where you're actually lifting the bow off the you're actually lifting the bow off the string, and then this up bow belongs to this down bow. Daddy, okay, so this happens like this. All right, so these are basically connected together like that, and so that whole business is basically what is known as the up-driven bow, because you're really driving it up a lot, up, 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 and is also sometimes known as the driven bow. Some people call it an arrow stroke, because it's like you're pulling back and it's like shoof, you're pulling things up. Hold on, my cat is giving me problems here. Okay. Our co-workers. So I'll show you that again. Okay, the up-driven bow. I'll do it like this so you can see it better. Okay, so Now when you're, notice I played the A section differently than I played the B section. Don't play the A and the B section of the tune exactly the same, because the listeners will start to get kind of annoyed at you if you keep just doing the same thing all the time. So kind of vary it a little. Usually my sort of rule of thumb is the A section is more percussive for me, and then the B section is more connected. That's sort of the way that I tend to play my Strathspeys. So I'll show you the difference here. Okay, do you hear the difference between the A section and the B section? It makes it nicer to listen to, and it also helps you to establish the tune when you're playing it for dancers. So let's move on from the Strathspeys, and let's play a jig. Okay, I want to play. Where's the jig section here? I want to play on page 11. Okay, it's a really popular tune by George McLennan. At the very top, it's called "The Jig of Slurs." Now, a lot of people think this is an Irish tune. It's not. It's a Scottish tune. It was originally written for the bagpipes, and there's actually a really interesting key change in this, in the middle of the tune. It doesn't show the key change because you can't change keys on a bagpipe, but what they do is they just change between modes on this particular tune. So I want you to hear. Notice there's no key changes actually written in here, but listen to see if you can find out where that key change actually occurs. So this is the Jig of Slurs, page 11 on the Triple S collection. So there's that tune. It's right in the middle, you're right. It's where it goes, it's letter C in the in it. And so basically it goes from the key of D into the key of G, but we never change the notes. It's really a clever tune. It's really a clever tune. Now, when I was playing it, I was playing with a jig rhythm, and I've heard Irish players play this tune like this. Very, very straight ahead, okay? If you play it really straight ahead, that's more of an Irish style. Also, if you're playing with bagpipes, they tend to play it a little bit more straight to the head as well, just because getting that ta-da-dee, 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 tum. Like I said last week, generally the jigs in Scottish style tend to be a little bit slower than the Irish style. So you can really get that. Ta-ta-dee, 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 ta. And I wrote this down last week, but I'll write it again, just because it bears repeating. When you're playing in the jig style in Scottish music, you don't actually have to write out these rhythms, but this is really the rhythm that's happening. Ba 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 ba, and you should feel an underlying rhythm like that. If you look underneath, it's this bum 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 bum. You should really feel that pulse. Ta 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 dee da da dee ta da dee ta da dee da da dee da da dee da. So remember what I said at the beginning. If you're trying to emphasize something in Scottish fiddle playing, the emphasis happens when you're pulling the bow down bow. So down da da dee 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 da dee da dee da dee da. So you want to try and do that as much as possible. So if you want, we know the very first note that's going to be a down bow right there. It's kind of nice if you could achieve this. Okay. So how do you figure that out? Well, this is pretty easy on this particular situation, because it's down, up, down, up, down, up, and then down, up, down, up, down. So it just follows that. But what happens if something like this over here happens? So you're going down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down. So now you got to figure out what to do here. Okay. So one thing you can do is you can slur these two together to get to the down bow there. All right. So that's a really common way of dealing with that particular situation. So that's on the third line, C, in section C, 1, 2, 3, fourth, the fourth measure. So you're going. So you're going down, up, down, up, up, down. Okay, so that's a way to keep yourself straight. Because if you start flipping it around, the emphasis is in the wrong place. So you really want to start trying to get that emphasis in the right place. You see what I did at the end of that phrase? Up, down. Okay, so that's how I'm getting that kind of a that emphasis in the right place. Okay, so let's take this tune again. Okay, I'll do a little bit slower for you guys. 1, 2, 3. kind of keeping that stuff in mind. Now I did a few little ornaments there. If you look at the if I have two notes that are the same, like those open E's, I can tap, and I'm literally just taking my hand and tapping it on the string. I'm not tapping it any harder than I would playing a harmonic. Okay. And just that one little tap adds a lot to the tune. Another thing that I'm doing, if you look up at that's another one of those taps, okay? Now that one up there, I'm actually doing what's like a little turn. That's at section C. Okay, that little turn. Not a lot of stuff going on there, but that adds a lot. So I just add a finger. Okay, so all of those just little things throughout the piece, you can really add to the sound of the tune. Okay, so let's do another tune. We did a Strathspey, we did a reel, we did a jig. Let's sort of randomly hit something here. Okay, let's do the very first page, okay? Very first page, The Deal Among the Tailors. This tune is very, very old. It's I did this on my first live, but it bears some repeating. What I want to do is I want you to kind of listen to the way that it's played in the Scottish idiom as opposed to the way that it is played in the old-timer bluegrass tradition, because it is different in the way that you approach it, even though it's the same tune. And you can play this against folks playing the other way, but this really has a different sound about it than the American style. The American style goes like this. Okay, that's the Americans, the way that they do. They play it really fast, and they pretty much play it very straight ahead, which is actually more in an Irish style, honestly. But this is the way the Scots play this tune. Okay, so that's The Deal Among the Tailors. So if you look at what notes are actually written there, that's not what I was playing. What I was playing was So if you look at what I'm doing there, I'm actually holding that note right there into this note. Ba-dee, da-dee, da-da-da-dee. And I'm slurring that da-dee, and I'm playing that again. So it's almost like I have another grace note in there. I'm just holding on to that tune. Well, Kim, you really shouldn't be playing it the Irish way. Oh my, I agree. I like it this way much better. I think there's more character. I think it's more stately. I think it just sounds better. So that's what I'm doing. Da-dee, da-dee. So this note right here, I hold on to that note and turn it into another like that. Okay? And I think the Scott Skinner edition of this in the Scottish Violinist, which is a pink book, so sometimes we call it the Pink Violinist, has a lot of the things written out as to what kind of ornaments to put in. Scott Skinner writes out all of his ornaments because he wants you to know exactly the way he played it, because the way he played it, according to Scott Skinner, was, according to him, the only way to play it correctly. But he was J. Scott Skinner, and he had a very high opinion of himself. But it's very nice to know what he said, because he did have some good ideas about these things. So if you're a violinist, you can see how high in the positions he went. I mean, he went up into the ninth position and stuff like that to play some of these pieces, which was basically for him just to show off. He wanted everybody to know how good he was, and so he would play it that way. But if you look at his version of it, he does that. Okay, so let's now with this part here, the part that's moving, that part, I play all of those as a down bow. So down, 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 down. Again, the moving notes are down, 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 down. If you do it the other way, I can't do it wrong. There it is. It doesn't work very well. You feel like you're working against yourself. So whenever you get into a piece that has those types of things where there's a repeated note, try to play the repeated note up bow and the changing notes down bow. So in that. Do you remember the crunch? You can do it here too. If you ever have that interval, try doing a crunch into it. So it goes, okay? That crunch is a really, really effective way. So we've been playing for an hour now. So let's finish off with playing The Deal Among the Tailors together. One time through. No, let's play two or three times. Let's go for crazy. So. thank you very much, everybody, for joining me today. Again, it's not required, but if any of you want to send a little token of your appreciation, I've got my PayPal account there that you can send a donation if you'd like. If you don't do PayPal, you could just personal message me and we can figure something out. Also, I'm going to be doing this every week, so I think that we will. I'd like to maybe get out of this particular collection, so if anybody has any nice suggestions for some collections that are fairly easily available online. I know IMSLP has loads and loads of stuff. I was considering using the Simon Fraser collection, or I think maybe the Sky collection is on there too. So I'll if you can just in the comments if you want to like suggest a collection that might be easily available online through PDF, one that's not horribly long. Like if the Gao collections are pretty long, so let's kind of keep with a fairly short collection. I don't know, but again, I also give private lessons online if you're interested in that as well. So I'm really excited about how many folks are coming in and watching these even afterwards. I get a lot more people watching these after the live session. So you folks have a great week. I'll see you next week on Saturday at 4 o'clock here on Eastern Standard Time. Bye-bye.